I'm gonna.
Are you ready? You're good?
All right, welcome back to today's Aquarium at Home live stream. Sorry for that brief interruption. Again, I forgot to add the donate button to today's live stream, and that is a very important way that you can contribute to the aquarium and help us kind of see ourselves through this period when we can't have those of you who normally come and visit us come into the building. So if you're able to, we do have that button going at the bottom of the screen. You can donate, and anything you can contribute is very much appreciated. If you can contribute nothing, that also is okay. But let's talk a little bit, Amanda, about what we're going to be watching Minnow do.
So Minnow is going to do the Aesop's Fable of water displacement. So we actually did some studies here with UTC on being able to see how smart crows are and what tasks they can figure out. And this was actually something that Minnow proved she could figure out how to do on her own. So it's something I like to use to display to the public. So the goal here is for her to take a rock and then put the rock in the water to raise the water level for her to be able to get the cricket out. So she has dropped a couple rocks in there already, and once she feels confident enough, she's going to come back down here. She is still a little bit nervous about the camera moving around in her space. We'll see if she'll do this.
So if you can't see, as Amanda pointed out, there is a cricket floating in that water column. So, but it's too low down for her to get. So she's figuring out a way to get that cricket up to where she can grab it.
And you may notice after she puts each rock in it, she's actually looking to see if she thinks she'll be able to reach the cricket or not. That's one way to really know that they're not just doing the behavior and that they actually understood what they were doing, is by her kind of looking and checking that out.
Well, while we're waiting for Minnow to come back and continue with her experiment, I'd like to say thank you very much to the person who donated to today's live stream. Again, all that money goes to our Emergency Operations Fund. It helps us to offset the need to care for all the animals, make sure that the same care that they have been getting the entire time, even while no one has been able to visit the building, and to help pay for staff costs. So that is very much appreciated. Thank you very much for contributing. And if you can't contribute, sharing is also an excellent way. Be like Minnow. Share this stream to your friends, and that will help us get the word out, and maybe one of your friends who is in a better position to contribute can contribute. And if you are joining the second part of this live stream, I haven't quite introduced Minnow. So Minnow is a fish crow, and today is Crow and Ravin Day, or order of that is. But
so Minnow has decided some of these rocks she really likes, and the dog food that I would not eat earlier, she did actually take and stash up by one of the perches. So now she's taking some of these rocks and actually placing them over that dog food so that she can hide it from, I guess, me or anybody else that might come to try and steal her dog food. That way we won't know where it is.
Probably the greedy looking camera person who wants that dog food so badly.
Are you hiding your rocks?
So we've talked a little bit about the fact that Minnow has been here for 6 years. Does that make her 6 years old?
Yes. So we got her when she was just a few months old. So she will be 6 in May. So just coming up, she's going to be 6 years old. So that is about a midway point for a crow, because typically they're only going to live to be around 11 or 12 years old. I think the actually oldest recorded fish crow was just 14 years old. So really hoping that Minnow will be with us the whole time. And there she did just complete that project of getting the cricket out. I'll try to set it up to see if she'll want to do it one more time for you guys to watch, since she is getting a little more comfortable with the camera here.
Getting a lot of encouragement from Minnow in the comments. People saying, go, Minnow, go. So what does Minnow like to work with? I mean, obviously you two seem to have a pretty good rapport.
Yeah, so Minnow is a lot of fun to work with. She's probably one of my favorites to work with because she's challenging to work with, and that's because she's so smart. So she's able to figure out a lot of stuff, and so I have to really be on top of my toes to make sure. Now she's going to offer me a cricket to eat. So I have to really stay on top of my toes to make sure that I am keeping her enriched and that what I'm going to train her isn't too boring for her. One thing that we're actually working on, but she wouldn't have been comfortable enough with the camera today, is Connect 4. So she'll pick up the pieces and she'll put them in there, and so it is a lot of fun to figure out what they are capable of learning and where they want to store food. When they can't put it in my mouth, apparently my ear is the next best spot.
Now, those of you who are watching, if you've never seen a crow or a raven interact with a person, or even up close, you may have some preconceptions, we'll say, about what ravens and crows are like. They are a species, or they are species of birds that tend to have a reputation.
Yeah, so a lot of people find these birds to be nuisances, and I mean, it isn't the best that they're going and stealing other birds' eggs out of their nests and stuff like that, but part of that is just from their intelligence. So they are so smart that they are going to be doing a lot of that. But these guys are also good to have around because, as I mentioned, they're going to eat, they're scavengers, so they'll eat that carrion or dead animals, so they're actually really helping to be kind of like nature's little garbage can. They're cleaning up, they're recycling all of that stuff, which really helps the spread of disease for us. So it's really nice to have them around.
I suppose it doesn't really help that they have that group name of murder. It kind of gives them a bit of a dark kind of air about them.
These guys will actually, so for example, if there is a death in a Corvid family, they're actually known to mourn the loss of their dead members. So they will all gather around, and it's almost like they'll do a little talk or display around their beloved member who did just pass away. These guys are also known to actually pass grudges down from generation to generation. So the University of Washington, this was several years ago, they did a study on face recognition with crows. And so what they would do is they would actually put a certain mask on every time they went out to actually catch wild crows, to band them, which would be putting an ID on their ankle, or to do nest checks. And of course, it's something that the wild crows did not like because they were not used to having humans around them. Every time they would go out with, say, a different mask on, the crows would not react. But every time that same bad mask, as the crows would believe, they would attack it. They had waited about 7 years, so whole new generations of crows would be born and coming out, and they walked out with that mask. And crows that they had never ID'd or anything were only attacking the bad mask. So it's kind of neat that they have the same little generational stuff that we can pass on to our children, the birds will do as well.
Now, we've had a couple of more questions coming in, or comments coming in, but if you have more questions, please type them down in the comments. I will pass them on to Amanda as best I am able. This question comes from my aunt, of all people, who would like to know, is it crows who will bring treasures to people?
Yeah, there's actually several stories. One that a lot of you have probably heard about was the young girl over in Europe who used to actually leave out food for the crows in her neighborhood, and they would be bringing her back anything they could find to kind of say thank you. So it might be, a little coin they found on the ground or whatever, but they actually brought this girl several gifts that they had collected over the years.
It's really interesting. So, Amanda, have you worked with any other crows or ravens, or is Minnow your first and only?
No, I love corvids. One of the very first birds I ever worked with about 12 years ago was an African raven and also an African pied crow. And that's when I really fell in love with their intelligence. And over the years at different facilities I've been at, I've been able to work with several other types of jays, crows, ravens, and so they definitely have a special place in my heart just for that intelligence and always keeping me as a trainer on my toes.
Now, speaking of birds, you have worked with some other varieties of birds here at the aquarium. In fact, right next to Minnow and her home back here behind the scenes is Bubba, who is a barred owl.
Yes.
You've also worked with falcons of some sort?
Yes.
So just in general, what are birds like to work with?
So birds are a lot of fun to work with, and the great thing about birds is a lot of times people will just lump birds all into the same thing, but there are so many different types and species of birds, and so you can learn a lot about them, and what you're going to do with them is also going to be different. I'm not going to ask Bubba the barred owl to try to do Aesop's fable, because although I love Bubba, there is no way he's at the same intelligence level. With your falcons, they are incredibly fast flyers, and some of the things they're able to do is really neat to see as well.
Very cool. All right, well, I'm waiting for more questions to show up here in the comments, but in the meantime, we've seen Aesop's fable, which is the raising the water level experiment that we've watched Minnow successfully do a couple of times. Are there any other behaviors that Minnow is trained to do?
Yeah, so some other stuff that we do with her is it might be having to actually pull on a string to be able to get the food from the other end of it. So that's one thing that she's able to do. Another thing that she'll do is just kind of taking that caching behavior where they'll go and store stuff is made it so that Minnow can actually recycle. So if we want to give her a plastic bottle, she can put it in the recycling bin. So I may start training her to be our mail person here while some people are working from home. She would be the perfect animal at the aquarium that could solve that job for us.
So Marilyn Payne would like to know, why is she fed dog food? What nutrients does she get from dog food?
So dog food, same thing if you have a dog at home. I mean, it really hits all of the daily nutrients that they need, because they're going to get protein in it, there's going to be a little bit of fat, and it's also going to have a little bit of a vegetable mix. I personally love doing the dog food when we're going to do some kind of training session, because it's really easy to feed her, and I would also rather her try to feed me dog food than I would a piece of mouse. So that is one main reason why I definitely use the dog food when we're doing these type of trainings. But she does get the dog food every single day.
And what, for people who are joining a little bit later, what are some other foods that she eats at the aquarium? Sarah Sweat would like to know.
So she does eat fruits and vegetables, and that can be really anything. This morning she had some corn, grapes, and blackberries was what she ate today. And then she's also going to get the protein, so it's going to be that mouse, it could be fish, clam, some super worms, crickets. It just really depends every day. I try to keep a variety in her diet, so she is going to get the dog food every day. That's going to be the only thing really consistent, and then the other foods I like to mix up a lot for her.
Okay. And for those of you who are noticing that it looks like Minnow has some of those rocks up there on her branch, we've kind of covered that.
Yeah, she put those up there because the dog food that I did not want to eat from her, she went and cached up there in that corner, and then she took a couple of these rocks to cover that dog food up, so that one, she knows where she puts it, but also so nobody else will see the dog food.
All right. So Brooke Gorman is asking on behalf of 5-year-old Megan, why are crows so loud? That was in all caps, so.
They can be rather loud. Part of it is so that they communicate with one another or another group that's over there. Just like humans. Some of us are a lot louder than other ones. The corvid birds are definitely the ones that are going to be a little bit louder. And part of it is a dominant thing, because they are going to be a little bit more dominant than some of your other birds that you'll see out there.
Now, I'm a little bit late asking this, but it occurs to me I didn't ask. Someone wanted to know earlier, why is she black?
I don't know exactly why crows and ravens are black in color. When you do travel to other countries, they will have a little bit of different colors on them. For example, the African crows and ravens usually have a white patch light is just right, you'll actually see a little bit of purplish blue coloring. So the feathers aren't truly all black. There are a little bit of colors mixed in there, but I don't know exactly why they are all black in the United States.
Now I'd like to take a second to acknowledge we have a couple more donations come in. Thank you very much for those. Again, every little bit counts and every little bit matters at this point, with the situation being such as it is. That money will definitely be put to very good use. So thank you very much for that. No one has asked so far, but I will ask for them. Are ravens and crows nocturnal, or are they out during the day?
They're going to be diurnal, so they're going to be active during the daytime. That's going to be when it's easier for them to look for their food. So they're definitely going to be more active during the daytime. Now, one of their predators, which is a great horned owl, may be active at night. But again, these guys are very aware of their senses, but that's really the only predator they have to worry about at night.
Okay. And are ravens and crows raptors, or are they another kind of bird?
No, so they're considered a corvid. So your jays are going to belong in that group, and so are your mockingbirds as well.
So if you're not familiar with the term raptor, again, science vocabulary, what is a raptor?
So a raptor is going to be a bird of prey, and one of the main definitions or characteristic that those birds are going to have are going to be very sharp talons, because they're going to use those to really grab a hold of their prey. And then for the most part, most of them are going to have a little bit of a hooked beak, so that they could use that like we would a knife and a fork to actually be able to cut open their food.
Wow. Okay. A couple of other questions have come in. Do crows migrate, or do they stay in the same place year-round? And also, are they endangered?
So for the most part, crows are not going to migrate. A fish crow will migrate a little bit, but they're not going to migrate out of the United States. For the most part, they're going to stay in their same areas, but they may shift maybe a few miles here and there, but they're not really going to migrate like a lot of our songbirds do. Okay. What was the other part of that?
Are they endangered? Are any crows endangered?
I don't know worldwide if there's any crows that are endangered, but I do know here in the States, none of the crows are endangered. The West Nile did actually wipe out quite a few fish crows, but thankfully these guys are really good and had successful breeding seasons, so they were able to bring back their numbers, because it had declined by about 40% when the West Nile virus came through.
Wow. What kind of clutch size do they have? So how many eggs do they lay at a time?
They can lay anywhere from 2 to 6. On average, they're usually only going to have about 2 to 3 young at a time, though.
Okay. And for those of you who are wondering, again, where we are in what's called the overlook for the Delta Country Gallery. And normally during the day, minnow would actually be out and free flying like a lot of other songbirds or a lot of other birds we have in that gallery.
Yes, and so this is really just the back area where I'll actually put minnows water during the day, or if I want to come in here and do a training session with her, this is where I'll usually do them. On days that we're not slower, you might catch us doing days that we are slower, you might catch us doing training sessions down in the Delta, or even sometimes in the auditorium as well. But this is kind of just like if you have a dog at home and the kennel is their safe place, this is Minnow's safe place. So this is where she likes to come and hang out.
Okay. Well, now that looks like some of the questions have started to peter out, I don't want to keep anybody for too long. So is there any opportunity that we can have Minnow let her get back out and fly again, or would she prefer to stay in this space?
We can give her the option and see if she wants to take off or not. It's completely up to her.
And that way, those of you who are watching can get maybe a different perspective on a part of the aquarium that you're not used to seeing. Again, this is the overlook, so we are above the Delta Country Gallery. And you'll see why we call it that in just a second. So as you can see, Minnow has decided, she has chosen to leave her home and is now out in the gallery. So we are under the glass peaks in the River Journey building. And the reason this is called the Overlook is it overlooks the gallery. So that is the gallery, or what you might know as the swamp. That is Alligator Bayou that we're looking down. You can see some alligators sunning themselves. So we are above the exhibit path. This is somewhere you have never seen before, probably, unless you've worked here, which we have a few people who are employees who are watching. So you have probably seen this, but other people have not. So my aunt would also like to know, is Minnow the only crow at the aquarium, and has she ever had babies?
She is the only crow here, and so since she has not had any babies, because when we got her as an imprint, she was just a baby herself. So she definitely has not had any young here.
Melia Blunt would like to know, she says, sorry if this has already been answered, but do crows live in social groups? And it has been answered, but that's okay. We're totally okay with answering questions if you're tuning in a little bit later.
So American crows are always going to be found in those bigger social groups. Fish crows will usually only be found in those bigger social groups in the winter months. During springtime, summertime, they're usually just going to be broken off into their breeding pairs. And you will find some fish crows intermingled with those American crow groups as well, all times of year.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and start the wrap up for this live stream. One of the first things I'll say is that if you are enjoying today's live stream, we have archived many of those live streams from the past several weeks. They are all located on YouTube, and there's a link to that YouTube playlist in the Aquarium at Home subsection of our main website, which is tnaqua.org. If you go to Aquarium at Home, you'll find a link to that playlist, as well as access to a lot of other materials that we have assembled for those of you who are at home right now, especially with small children. We have activity sheets. We have that Weekday Wonders series of activity packets for doing science at home with your kids. A lot of resources available there for you to use and make use of, to make the days go by a little bit quicker, to give yourself a chance to get outside and maybe look at the natural world in your own backyard a little bit differently. And we do have these live streams coming at you once a day at about 1 p.m. usually Eastern time. But if you check the Facebook page for the aquarium in the mornings, usually around 11 o'clock, we'll let you know what we're going to be talking about and where. And I'll ask one more question on behalf of Lou Everman before we go, since Lou was kind enough to remind me that I did not have a donate button on this live stream. And again, thank you very much to those of you who have donated. It's very beneficial to us, especially right now, to get any contribution that we can. But Lou would like to know, do they have multiple clutches per year like some of our other native birds, and how many eggs do they usually lay, which we've talked about, but if you'll cover that again.
So they will only have one clutch a year, and it can have anywhere from 2 to 6 eggs, but for the most part, they're only going to have about 2 to 3 young that they'll actually raise each year.
All right. Well, Lou, I hope that answers your question. Again, thank you all for watching. Thank you to those of you who have donated. If you can't donate, please share this with your followers and get the word out. And we hope that you have learned a little bit about crows and ravens on National Crow and Raven Day. And we will see you tomorrow.